Welcome to the friendliest campus in the South.
Shotgun, Blanchard, one back set, rolls right, pressure coming, throws, Middleton, got it! He scored!
To the gym of the hills.
He lifts it to left. That one's pretty well hit. Hall on the run. That ball is gone.
Home of the Jacksonville State Gamecocks.
Over the day, over the Hawks. He fires up at the buzzer and drains the three. Good defense by Cunningham. Gregory releases the ring. Pulls up. He checks.
This is your podcast for JSU Sports.
High fly ball. Center field. It is back. It's out of here.
With your hosts, Brandon Owens and Cody Hooks. This is Cocky Nation.
What is going up, y'all? How y'all doing? It's another episode of Cocky Nation for all of our Cocky Nation fans. It's your favorite hosts, Cody and Brandon. But as you can see, we're not alone today. We have a very, very special guest. I think it's our first guest in quite a while, Brandon.
Very long time.
Yeah,
I think our last guest was Will Seiler, who does the A-Sun podcast with me.
I know, it's crazy. But we want to welcome Grant. Grant is a SHSU fan himself. Not going to give you all the hate, but it's okay. We love you no matter what.
Hey, you better be nice to him. His team's going to be a conference member with us.
I know. But as you can probably guess, we have a ton of stuff to talk about today. We have things to talk about as far as football. We have a lot of things to talk about as far as basketball is concerned. And of course, we want to talk a little bit about our Conference USA future with our future Conference USA members. So, Brandon, do we want to go ahead and start with football?
Yes.
All right. So, to recap our Week 11 review, we went back to Texas. We played against Lamar. And
more successful this time,
More successful this time. We just went to the right. We went to the right Texas area, and we ended up beating Lamar 38-7. Fantastic game. I truly enjoyed it. It was a little bumpy at first, personally, but we eventually got ourselves up, and we ended up winning 38-7. Honestly, I liked it. I thought we did real nice. I think it looked a lot better than the last couple weeks. I'm not going to say that that's contributed to the fact that we
don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
I don't know. I'm just saying. But
you've already pissed off a bunch of JSU fans this year. Don't say it.
Oh yeah, I know. And again, we're sorry, Coach Cross. We love you. But the numbers show.
Well, also when you see what happened during the game, like it was a slow first half. Like I was nervous.
Yeah.
Going into halftime, I was nervous, and I was like, "We're gonna find a way to screw this up against Lamar." You do not lose to Lamar.
That's
at
also
all.
True.
And then luckily, the old Gamecocks from our time in the OVC, where we came out strong in the second half, they made an appearance in the second half, and I was so relieved.
Yeah,
it was so nice to have the old Gamecocks back.
Yeah, and it's basically as all things should be, back to the way that things were. But it was a good win. We needed it. I wouldn't necessarily say that we needed it, obviously, for playoff purposes, because let's face it, it's not happening. But I think we needed it personally as Gamecock fans, because we needed some sort of like little bit of hope to hold on to, that maybe, just maybe, things can get better. But that's just me personally.
So since we have a special guest, you're more familiar with Lamar than we are, Grant. So why don't you give us your thoughts on the game?
So I got to watch a little bit of it due to time constraints, but I got to see some highlights and stuff like that. To piggyback on what Brandon said, yeah, the first half I was a little concerned. I was like, there's no way that this is going to be this close at the end of the half. Luckily, you guys pulled it out and beat Lamar the way you should have. So, I mean, the end result is the end result. Doesn't matter if it came in the first half, second half. So that's the score I was expecting.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the score a lot of people were hoping.
And poor Lamar, man, they're just chock full of freshmen. Give them a few years. They're going to be giving some people on the whack fits, I think.
Yeah, I will say that. I think give it a few more years, they're going to give Stephen F. Austin a run for their money in the whack.
Yep, I don't disagree.
Yeah, and what I found so relieving was our offense finally decided to wake up and put up the numbers that they used to put up. We almost got 500 total yards of offense, and we held Lamar under 150.
Yeah.
It is so nice to see those numbers again.
Yeah, you held them to 53 rushing yards, I think 197 total yards or passing yards. The only thing that I saw was just the only statistic that stood out to me was the 9 penalties for 100 yards. That was it.
Yeah, we're used to that.
Everything else,
We're used to that.
That's unreal. Almost 200 penalty yard. That's crazy. I don't think we've ever had a game with 185 or more.
Yeah, honestly. And I will say that I like to give my shout outs to certain players. Wiggins looked real nice. Samuel always looking nice personally. Zarek could have made a couple more completions. I mean, again, it is what it is. Zarek, I hope you enjoyed your last season. But as we know, it's time for a change. But again, Wiggins, Samuel, you have my sympathy because I think you did phenomenal in that game. And of course, it's only going to get better. So.
One last person I want to give a shout out to. Sad that we didn't get to see Matthew Caldwell play in this game, but our Big Sky boy, our transfer from Cal Poly, got some playing time. Now, granted, it was only one play, but he got some playing time. I'm so happy that he finally got some playing time.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be – I think next year – and again, I think most teams will say this like, oh, there's always next year. Like, next year we got it. But
we have learned our lesson. We will not say that.
Yes, but I will say that I think based on what we're seeing with these younger, and I don't mean like younger like freshmen, but younger as in like they're new to the team in general. I think these newer guys that we have, like the guy from Cal Poly and all of our freshmen that are moving up, I think it's going to be a more decent season next year. Now, obviously, it ain't going to be easy because we still got to play Sam Houston.
We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
You know we're going to end up playing them. Just
well,
don't even argue.
At least we will get them in Jacksonville next year.
True, which I don't know. I mean, I always think about Eastern Washington. I mean, we did beat them at home.
Oh, you mean the team that this is a bit of a jab. The team that we didn't follow through with our deal?
True. But
I had to throw that in there for Kyler Neal.
Kyler, we love you. But regardless, I think things are going to start looking forward. And speaking of forward, first off, is there anything else you want to add?
No, just to piggyback off of you going into next year, like it's very promising. It's very promising, and I like with the success that Sam Houston has had as well to kind of tie Grant into this. They still have playoffs to go, and they look really good. Now, I don't know how many players Sam Houston is losing, but next year seems very promising for them to keep that success rolling.
True. Very true. And so with that being said, we have one last game this season. It's kind of sad. It is what it is. But we're going to play Eastern Kentucky at Eastern Kentucky at 1 o'clock. It's against us. It's going to be at 1 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Please, for the love of God, can we win this game? Please, just end it on a good note, please.
We need to have a winning record.
Please, it's all people and all JSU fans. First off, all JSU fans want to beat them because I think we all remember, what was it, 2017? 2017 when they were on our field and Grant. I don't know if you've heard this story. Was it in 2019? So in 2017 and 2019,
he should remember all the posts that the Southerners posted on that page.
That's also true. So if you don't remember, and
I know a lot of the posts. from Cocky Nation.
So for all of our Cocky fans that don't remember, in 2017 and in 2019, the Southerners and the Eastern Kentucky football players do not get along because of the fact that the Eastern Kentucky football players were literally stepping on our color guard flags. They were just god awful, man. I'm sorry. Like
our dance line.
We're
going onto the field for post game.
There's a word called sportsmanship, and it was not there. And like at first, I'm thinking, well, maybe the coach is going to do something about this, but I never once saw anything being done about it. And it only happened, something quote unquote something only happened after all of the Southerners and JSU fans started to blow up Eastern Kentucky online and on social media, and that's when things started to change. But if they act that way, I mean, I know that Southerners aren't going, but if they keep up with this like unsportsmanlike, mentality, it's just annoying, man. Like, and I get it. JSU gets penalties all the time. I mean, if you want to argue sportsmanlike, but regardless, like that is just a character.
That's a little bit different than penalties on the field, though.
Exactly. That is just a character thing. That's you being just a bad person.
Now, I like the rivalry we have with Eastern Kentucky, and I really want them to go into Conference USA with us. I don't think it's going to happen. Thank you, MTSU, for messing all of that up. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But, yeah, our boys just need to go in there on fire, bringing their A game, like literally just playing smash mouth football, playing super aggressive in order to get the win against Eastern Kentucky. It's a familiar opponent from the OVC days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know them inside and out pretty much. Like, just do your job, play football, get the win. Let's end this year on a high note going into our transition to FBS.
And it's not like you guys don't have the talent and the skill there. You do. I think this is honestly going to be a really good game. This is going to be a game that I definitely tune into, or at least record. I touched on it earlier. If you can keep the penalties to a minimum, if you guys can get some pressure on Parker McKinney, I think that you guys have a decent chance of winning this game.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of that, I mean, both our offensive and defensive lines have looked a lot better the past few weeks, mostly our defensive line. So I agree. If we can get pressure on Parker McKinney, I think we'll be set up for a win.
And I think that it was I didn't scout any of the EKU players prior to the Sam Houston game, but they highlighted quite a bit Davion Ross, their defensive back. I think he's gonna be a dude to watch too.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, and this is something in the future mentality, I think one thing that I also am looking forward to, and because this is the last game, which means that this is the last time that we'll see a coach in this, and in play, quote unquote. So I'm interested to see what our interim coach does, because from what I've been told, he's
already light years better than Gross.
Yeah, because what I've been told, his name is still in the mix, right? For head coach.
He is in the mix, but I don't think he's the guy. I think they've already made a decision. They're waiting until the season is over to announce it.
And we'll get more into Conference USA later, but. That is not the only game that's happening on Saturday. Obviously, there's plenty of games going on, but some of the ones that we wanted to highlight. So obviously, with an SHSU fan here, we want to talk about their game against Abilene Christian. They're playing at 1:00 Central Standard Time on ESPN Plus as well. No brainer. They're going to win. They're going to win. I mean, it's Abilene Christian. I'm sorry, but. What are you expecting to see, Grant?
So speaking of Abilene Christian, when they got into the Southland, there was a lot of talk on catfans.com about how in the coming years, maybe 3-4 years, these guys were going to be big time. And it seems like every season they fall short of their expectations, and there's always people, myself included, who have given that excuse, like, hey, give them a little bit more time. These guys have a lot of talent. Their recruiting's good. They've got money. Like, it's going to be a matter of time. I think I'm falling off of that bandwagon at this point. They've been at the FCS level for, I don't know what, 8 years, 7 years now, and
Something like that.
they just keep coming up short.
Yeah.
I think that it could easily be a trap game for Sam Houston. They've already clinched the playoffs. As long as they stay focused and keep their eye on the prize and do exactly what they've been doing all season, beating teams that they're supposed to beat, then I think this is, I don't want to say it's an easy game because I don't think any game's going to be easy. But if you stay focused, do exactly what you're supposed to do, then we're going to get the result that we expect.
Yeah, I think regardless whether you win or lose this, you have a top 2 seed locked up. It's a matter of if you win, you get the 1 seed. If you lose, you get the 2 seed.
Yeah.
I think that if we drop this game, I don't think a 1 or 2 seed is going to be in the cards for us. I don't. So perfect scenario for Sam Houston would be we win against ACU. We could be looking at a 1 or 2 seed. But it wouldn't surprise me even if we went out, if we got maybe the 3 or 4 seed, just because of our strength of schedule. It's an unpopular opinion, especially among Sam Houston fans, because we're undefeated. We're the defending national champions. But what happened in the spring only takes you so far in the following season. That's something maybe to take into consideration. But our strength of schedule is not the Big Sky. Our strength of schedule is not the Missouri Valley Conference. Right. So it wouldn't surprise me if even if we do win out, maybe we get the 3 or 4 seed. I think 1 or 2 seed is likely if we win out. But if we drop that game against ACU, I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
What year was it that y'all finished in the top 2 of the polls and then ended up with like the 4 or 5?
Oh man.
It was recent. While I was still in undergrad.
It wasn't the 2019 season because we didn't even make the playoffs. No. It had to have been 17 or 18.
I think it might have been. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember I was a huge advocate for y'all getting one of the top 2 seeds that year, and y'all ended up getting the 4 or 5 seed.
Right.
So that played a lot into the strength of schedule for Sam Houston that year. I think a lot of the Southland teams just underperformed, and y'all's strength of schedule went from up here it just skyrocketed down. And
I kind of feel like that's the same thing with the WAC. I think the WAC had a good amount of potential. I think at most we could have been a 2 playoff conference. But it's just the way things work out sometimes. I thought that UCA and JSU, you guys were going to be, I knew for sure that those are going to be the toughest games we're going to play. And I even told you, Brandon, at some point when you guys made the announcement to go to the ASUN, I was like, dude, that is going to be a loaded conference. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out for the WAC ASUN Challenge this year.
Yeah. I just want to add that when you were talking about Abilene, had like this high hope for him, and like it's gonna be this year, it's gonna be that. Every Atlanta Falcons fans just literally heart just broke.
Or the Braves until this year.
True.
Oh man, come on. I was expecting you to bring this up. I was expecting you to bring it up. I just didn't expect it so soon.
I'm sorry. We're brave people.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It was a great series.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I really do expect you guys to end up probably getting the 1st or 2nd seed. That's me personally. But I do understand where you're getting at when it comes to the idea that, well, depending on strength of schedule, they might put you in the 3 or 4. But I still believe that you have a really good chance of making it all the way. But that's just me personally.
So I think that there's a good chance. I mean, I'm also looking through my orange tinted glasses here. That sometimes you do have to take off, but yeah, I think that we've got a good chance of making the 1 to 2 seed. I mean, it's up to the committee at this point, and it wouldn't shock me if we don't. I'd be bummed, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
man, I'm hoping it goes through Bowers because that's a tough place to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody else knows. I think I just told Brandon a few hours ago, I don't even live in the Houston area anymore. I moved up to the northern Arizona region, and I have not been able to make a game in Bowers in 3.5 years now. So I'm thinking that if I can get the time off work and maybe make it down to Bowers, I think that I'm going to try and make it happen if it
Or
goes
even
through.
to Frisco.
Yeah,
True.
for sure. Yeah, I mentioned to some of the other FCS Fans Nation guys, I was like, because I saw all the stuff that they had on Facebook and on YouTube when they all went down there, met up. I was like, I'm going to try and make that happen next year.
Right.
He is still trying to decide if he's going or not.
Hey, I love you, Brandon. I'm not going this year, unfortunately. So I have some great news that I'll tell you later. But there is a reason why I can't go anymore.
Okay.
You'll like the reason. You'll like the reason. But regardless, it is what it is. But with that being said, so we do have one other game that we want to talk about that's going to be kind of big. Most of the time, we don't necessarily talk about it, but this weekend is what we call the Florida Classic, where Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman University are going to be playing against each other in Orlando in Camping World Stadium. And the reason why we're talking about this is because I will be at that game. I will actually be traveling down to Orlando for a Battle of the Bands that I'm participating with my local high school that I'm helping out with. And so I'm really excited because, number one, I've never been to a game like this. I've never been to an HBCU.
Oh, you're in for a treat. You are.
I know.
In
I'm
for a
truly
treat.
excited. I didn't even get to go to the. I live in Birmingham, and I never get to go to the Magic City Classic, and so I'm real excited to be able to go see this game. I heard Florida A&M is phenomenal. I mean, they've been doing really well this year, anyways, and so I'm excited to see it. I don't really have a preference on who's going to win. My band director went to BCU, so I guess go Wildcats.
Nah.
But regardless, I think it's gonna be a fun game. I'm just excited. But if you want to watch that game, it's gonna be on at 2:30 on ESPN3. So just be on the lookout for that. I'll bring in some highlights next week when we're recording again to talk a little bit more about my experience during that time.
Well, I'll tell you why this is an important game for Florida A&M. They have been the past 2-3 weeks. They have been in the discussion for one of the possible playoff bids.
Yeah.
If they win this game, they finish 9-2. They have a very strong chance at making the playoff field, but they're going to need some help to get into the playoff field.
Right.
I mean, you have to have 2, 3, maybe 4 bubble teams lose this week. And still, that might not be enough just because of when you look at their schedule, it's not the most favorable. But comparing to what it used to be when they were in the MEAC, it is so much stronger than what it was when they were in the MEAC.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The SWAC is definitely a lot stronger. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun game. And I'm unfortunately not going to Disney. So that's a bummer, but it'll be okay. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a good weekend. I think there's a lot of really good games. I think isn't there a couple other games that are happening this weekend in the FCS that are pivotal games as well?
The Brawl of the Wild.
Yeah, I was about to say Brawl of the Wild is happening this weekend.
Kennesaw and Monmouth.
Yeah. Let me double check.
NDSU plays South Dakota. South Dakota State plays North Dakota. Come on, Fighting Hawks and Coyotes, please.
Nichols.
I'm with you on that.
Nichols plays Southeastern Louisiana on tomorrow. Actually,
SLU is going to wipe the field with.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I also don't think, just to go back for a couple of seconds, because
go ahead.
I don't think that Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman game is going to be close. I don't. I think the Rattlers are going to win pretty easily.
Probably.
Yeah, that's. I mean, as you can't tell, I'm picking my favorite HBCU school. So,
Mhm. Well, I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun. But to transition us just a little bit from the football games to football talk, one of the things that we've kind of talked a little bit about, but we want to go a little bit more into it now that Grant's here, is talking about Conference USA. So again, as we reiterated before, if you haven't heard, which unless you're living under a rock, I mean, you would have heard that Jacksonville State, Sam Houston State, New Mexico State, Liberty, we're all making the move to Conference USA. They're fixing up the conference with UAB and several other teams moving around. And so I, at first, Grant, you probably have heard, I at first didn't like this. I didn't like this idea.
Didn't.
Most JSU fans did, because for me personally, it was in that perspective of Gross was, again, I'm sorry, Gross, but Gross was still coach. I didn't think that he was ready to coach an FBS team. And I just was afraid that we just weren't going to be prepared. But now we're, a couple weeks out from that. Gross has, stepped out. We have an interim coach. We're going to get a new coach, whether that be the interim coach now or a new coach later. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a fun time. I think it's going to be a fun conference, because now we have teams like you that are joining in. Liberty's part of that. I think it's an opportunity for us to grow, which I think arguably Jacksonville State has been growing tremendously as a school over the last 6 years alone, but also just being able to grow using this as basically a publicity, because now we'll have more finances, more money, which means that more students, more recruitment, especially because our recruitment primarily, I don't know if it's the same way at Sam Houston, is the idea that we really recruit from the northeastern Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee region. But I think that this will allow us to expand into farther areas.
Yeah, Cody, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad to see you guys have kind of come around. I watched the podcast a couple of weeks ago when you kind of announced it, and the look on your faces was just distraught. And I saw some of Brandon's posts on the FCS Fans Nation and Twitter. And to be honest, I had pretty much the same reaction at first. The news broke of the rumors of JSU and Sam Houston entering Conference USA, and at first it was denial for me. I was like, no way, this is happening. We don't have the money. We don't have the facilities. Why is anybody even entertaining this rumor? And then it was pretty much a done deal, and I went straight to anger. And I was like, this is the dumbest decision we could ever make. Goodbye national championship. Goodbye rivalry with SFA. We're going to be basically the bottom feeders of the FBS for several years ahead. I just was super upset about it. And then I slept on it, talked to some people, and I was like, all right, now I'm basically where you guys are now. I just looked a little bit sooner. I just exactly what Cody said. It's an opportunity to grow the brand. It's more national recognition. It's possibly more revenue, depending on what statistics you look at. Sure. And the way that the college football landscape is kind of shifting, and everybody's kind of heard the rumors, everybody's heard the talk for several years now, is that the Power Five is going to break away from the NCAA, create their own league.
Please.
Yes, I know, exactly. Basically relegating the group of five conferences to FCS 2.0, right? Yeah. And if JSU and Sam Houston can get a jump start on that with recruiting, with improving facilities, well, I don't think you guys really need to improve your football stadium. That's an awesome looking stadium. Holds 24,000. Am I right?
Yeah, the new renovation is actually taking away 4,000 seats.
Oh, well, that's fine. The 20,000 seat stadium is compared to our 12,000 plus stadium, that really has only had 3 renovations since 1986, a new scoreboard, chairbacks, and they just got the new field house last season. So we're in dire need to improve that stadium. And this is an opportunity to do it. It's not only an opportunity, it's mandatory at this point for us to upgrade that stadium if we want to keep up with everybody. So that's a big plus. Also, what I thought about just last night is, so back in 2011, yes, I'm 35. 2011, I had already graduated from Sam Houston. I went to a Texas State game right when it was their last season in the FCS. They had just built onto their stadium, made big renovations. It looked great. Flash forward like 8 years, and they're hosting Baylor. I would have never guessed that. I was watching Texas State and Sam Houston games in Bauer Stadium in 2007, 8, and 9, and I never would have ever guessed that in 10, 11 years' time, they'd be hosting Baylor. So I think that's something we can also look forward to. Not only Sam Houston, but JSU. That's an opportunity to get – I don't think you guys have the attendance issues that are very obvious at Bauer. But to get butts in seats, if we can get a Baylor, a Texas Tech, even a Southern Miss or Louisiana Tech, who's going to be in Conference USA with us, I think that's going to be able to –
I'm very excited to play them.
Yes.
I'm very excited to play them.
But I mean, I agree with you because I've been saying it for a long time that there is something going on in the the political side of things when it comes to the FBS, is that the Power Five needed to break off. They should have already broken off and become their own division. Now that's just me personally, but it's long overdue. And I'm telling you, with all these movements, whether you're talking about James Madison moving to the Sun Belt, us moving to Conference USA, they have to have been told something. There is something going on underneath that they have not told anybody. And basically, I think it's telling them, hey, Power Five is going to break off by 2030, and that you will have an opportunity to move up in the FBS, while the Power Five becomes their own thing. I think that's what's happening, and I really hope it is, because that was the other reason why I was so hesitant, is because I was like, why would you have moved from the FCS when all these other teams have, and you could have been given an opportunity to skyrocket yourself into a national championship in the FCS and make it to Frisco. But it's got to be because they know something that we don't. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, this isn't the last time we're going to see top-tier FCS programs move up to the FBS.
Oh, no.
Sooner or later, you are going to see CAA, bye. Y'all are going to be non-existent in the near future. Well, there's rumors about CAA teams leaving. But anyways, Big Sky and Missouri Valley, you will see them in the new FBS within 10 years. Within 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, there was I've read several different articles about and Matthew Frazee had that the podcast or the video about why North Dakota State hasn't jumped yet or shouldn't have.
Which I still think they should join Conference USA. That's just my personal opinion.
I think that'd be great, but I can't imagine a future of Group of 5 conferences and either the Mountain West, the MAC, somebody picking up North Dakota State. I just can't imagine them being somehow left behind in the old FCS.
It's not that they're getting left behind. I think it's a personal choice by North Dakota State, because they could have made that move.
I think it's different.
How long
I think
ago?
it's a personal choice, but
it is a personal choice.
Conferences. The conferences don't want North Dakota State to be competing immediately.
I think it's a personal choice. I think they're comfortable where they're at. They don't want to move. I think that's what it comes down to. We know that they could perform at least on a decent level if they moved up to the FBS. We've known that for 6-10 years or so.
Yeah, I don't think that they've lost against an FBS opponent in 10 years.
No, and I think that they could. And I think they're just I wouldn't even say that they're scared. I think they're just comfortable. I think that's what it comes down to.
Or maybe they're just dead set on joining a very specific conference. I mean, to be honest, was the Conference USA that appealing to JSU and Sam Houston? No.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sun Belt's different now, but the Sun Belt is geographically a little bit different. But that goes back to a whole other thing. But I think what they want is Mountain West. I'm just guessing here. If they're going to jump to any Group of 5 conference, the Mountain West is what they want. It's the strongest
Yeah.
Group of 5 conference. Well, the American, but just behind the American is Mountain West, and it's a decent geographic fit.
Yeah, and I'm excited for these movements. I just wish Troy was not in the Sun Belt. Whoop Troy. We'll talk about that later.
Well,
You
might see Troy make the jump to Conference USA now.
I was gonna ask you guys about that. So, you guys have a rivalry with Samford, correct?
Yes.
And Troy.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, with the jump to FBS, we're gonna see that rivalry again.
Hopefully, if Troy will put their pride away,
Pride.
agree to play us.
Okay.
If only. I don't know. I don't see. They'll play us in everything but football.
Right.
can tell
I
you
don't
that.
understand
It's
that reasoning.
pretty funny. But
I will say quickly a few pros about this move. Number one, we get the rivalry we've always wanted with Sam Houston. We finally get that rivalry. I'm so happy to have that now. The last pro. Think back to when the Sun Belt got raided in the last realignment.
Yeah.
This is eerily similar. And if Conference USA plays their cards right, we can end up being what the Sun Belt is now.
arguably.
That's what I'm most excited about.
And it just a quick thing, not to waste too much time. The rivalry with Sam Houston and JSU, it's not just the playoffs over the past 6 years. JSU was in the Southland for a brief period of time, so there is that relationship there with Sam Houston and JSU, not just within the playoffs over the last decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just made too much sense. We are not the only two. I hate this.
I hate this mirroring. I really do.
I gotta do one of these.
Yep.
There we go.
We are not the only JSU fans that have already penciled in Sam Houston as our conference rivals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think the same thing. I think Sam Houston fans are in the same boat. It makes sense. We're jumping up from the FCS together. We were in the Southland for a brief period of time back in the mid to late 90s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Early 2000s,
we've had some pretty good games in the playoffs, minus that one. And Jacksonville. We're not going to talk about that one. That one wasn't a good game.
That was a good game.
Yeah, maybe for you. That one broke my heart, along with the massive upsets, in Fargo and blowouts. Right. And just one more thing. I think that JSU and Sam Houston by far got the most hate on the FCS Fans Nation Facebook page for the last.
I don't understand why.
2014.
Because
I kind of understand why.
Because I think since 2014 we've been complaining about wanting a new coach. I think that's what it comes down to. Because who is it that constantly, every week, it was here's my obligatory post about firing Gross, and it was
Scotty Simpson.
Yeah. So I just constantly think about that, and so I don't know. They just hate us because they ain't us.
There you go.
So quickly to close this out, Conference USA did announce that Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State are not joining the MAC and they're staying in Conference USA.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that because if they had went to the MAC, EKU and UTC were in line to join Conference USA.
Right.
They were set up to be given invitations. Now, what beef both of those schools have with EKU and UTC, I don't know. But they need to realize that if we want to rebuild this conference, invite those two. Invite those two, please.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think UTC would be I have my personal feelings.
Shoot,
against
even go
Kentucky,
after SFA.
Thank you. I was going to bring it up in a second, and I'm not opposed to UCT or UTC coming up and everything like that. But from a selfish point of view, I was just glad that Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky stayed, because I was like, okay, that brings a little bit of validity to the conference. Like, they're going to stay for the time being. You know, I'm pretty sure they're going to keep their eyes open in the future. But I was like, all right. Yeah. That's some established FBS programs that are already here. But when the announcement was made about Sam Houston and JSU going to Conference USA, I don't think I've ever seen the amount of Bearcat fans say nice-ish things about SFA. And the general consensus was, hey, is there any chance we can get SFA to follow us? Like, we don't want to lose that rivalry. We actually love you guys. You know, we love that game, and losing it is like that's our only rivalry now. Because our old rivalry was Texas State. Now they're gone. But yeah, I would love to see SFA make that jump in the future. I'd love it.
Right.
I think JSU fans had the same reaction with UTC when all of this was announced. Now, granted, we seriously do not like UTC. I despise them. But that has been one of our best rivals until Kennesaw State came on the scene.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I wanted.
You mean the one-sided rivalry? Yeah.
Just to make things clear, we hate the purple guys. We hate the purple guys. Sorry, Dustin Helton. We don't like you guys. But when it came to like leaving you guys, it was like, we don't really want to leave. We don't like you guys. We want you guys to come along. But yeah, that new rivalry you guys have started with Kennesaw State and UNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah. What are you guys' feelings on leaving that? I mean, it's a new rivalry, so there's not a whole lot of history.
I hate it.
Yeah,
I have connections to UNA, so they hold a special place in my heart.
I mean, we never know.
I almost went to UNA over JSU.
Okay.
So, and my parents went here, so they filled me in on like the rivalry side of UNA JSU, and it's big. It still is big to this day for whatever reason, because they were not in the same division for like 15 plus years. But the fact that it was brought back over the past 3 years, 3 years, it has gained so much traction, and now JSU is leaving. Yeah. How does that make us as Big Brother feel?
Yeah, I mean,
how does it make us look? Like, it makes us look horrible.
Arguably, I can agree with you on the whole UNA thing. Now, as far as Kennesaw State goes, like, yes, I feel the same way, but at the same time, can you call it a rivalry if it's a one-sided thing?
Yes.
I mean,
you can, because it's been one-sided for Sam Houston and FFA for 10 years now, but it's still a rivalry.
Well, I mean, same thing with Alabama and Tennessee. I mean, but regardless, it's just one of those things that, like, you never know. If anybody was to make that jump with us in the near future, it would be Kennesaw State. I wouldn't necessarily say that UNA would make that jump, but Kennesaw State could make that jump.
Here's UNA. They are that close.
Yeah, and so I think Kennesaw State could make that jump. And if they do, and let's say hypothetically they did go to Conference USA with us, oh my God, that would be so much fun.
It wouldn't surprise me. They've got that Atlanta TV market right there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I don't see why they don't. So I think it could be a possibility in the future. We just never know. But we do need to get to some other things.
Yes,
we got to get to basketball. So is there any last minute comments that we have?
I just wanted to touch on one more thing. Has anybody looked at Liberty's endowment?
3.7 billion.
The last I saw was 1.6 billion, but still
over 3
billion or 3.7 billion.
Brandon,
that's all I wanted to say, man.
Do you know what I could do with
$1
million, Brandon? Do you know what I could do with $1 million?
I could pay off all my debts.
I could not
my
be
student loans and all my bills.
Student loans would be out the door.
I wouldn't be poor. I wouldn't be broke. So I mean, that's where I leave it, man. But All right, so let's get into basketball. So since we last recorded and last time we posted, we did have a couple games. The first one we played last Saturday against Alabama A&M, the Bulldogs. We ended up winning that game. Told you, Brandon. We ended up winning that game,
I
70 to
picked them. Don't do that to me.
yeah, whatever. We ended up winning that game 70-47. Phenomenal game. I thought we did fantastic. I think we looked clean. And then, God, do I really even talk about it?
Pause right quick. You actually
God.
get to see, Grant. You get to see how much we actually hate Troy now.
Oh my God.
All right, I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it.
So we ended up playing Troy last night, right? Last night.
I was going to go to bed at 7:00 because I had to get up and do my papers, do more reading and everything. They kept me up till 9.
3 overtimes. 69-65. We lost the game. I'm like, oh my God, how do you lose to Troy? It's like, how do you lose a woman? Forget to cherish her. Like we lost that. And I'm so mad. The ref, the officiating was pissing me off the entire time.
The very last shot.
Oh God.
There was a obvious foul
God.
when they did the replay. The Troy defender went up to block the shot, and it was obvious he slapped Finch's hand. I had to think of the guy's name. And then they called a foul on Finch. Sunbelt Conference
Frustration in Brandon's face says it all.
Exactly.
They suck.
Yeah, it was
Because
awful. But
if we had the foul called, we would have had 3 foul shots, 3 free throws.
Yeah.
And most likely, the entire game Finch was great from the line.
Oh yeah.
So even if he made 2, we would have had the lead.
Yeah. And for real, Finch looked really good the entire night. Finch, if you're hearing this, we love you. Adams looked really good. Henry looked okay. He didn't play as much as I thought. He didn't do as much as I was hoping for. But overall, can't complain. But overall, and you see right there, you can get those stats.
It was very evenly matched. Like the field goal percentage was close, the 3-point percentage was close, the free throw percentage was close. Like, I mean, how much closer can you get?
Yeah.
How much closer can you get? I think the only category that we outdid Troy on was points scored from the bench.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
You got to take the stats off. We can't
Yes,
see
I
Grant. I was about to say, hi, Grant.
I'm
There
still
you are.
here. Don't worry, I'm still here.
I'm still here. But yeah, so it's just, as we've stated, Troy, if you want to have a rematch and turn it into a football game, we're more than happy to host. We'll even
They will definitely lose halftime.
Yeah.
They will definitely lose
halftime.
I've heard so much about the band, the Southerners, right? That's what they're called. I've heard so much. I'm looking forward to at least trying to see him in person. I've heard great things. So.
You need to. I was hoping JSU was going to be good enough this year to go to Frisco, so that way you could have saw him in person.
Yeah, but yeah, that wasn't happening. I'm sorry, but there's always, again, we have to look towards the future. We can't hold on to the fact that we lost to Troy, even though we'll never live it down. Even though nobody cares, we care. So
two last things before we go on to our games for next week. Whoop Troy, and Troy sucks.
Yeah, pretty much. So our next games that we're playing on the 22nd, we're going to play ACU at 4:30, and it's going to be on ESPN Plus. Please go watch it.
It's actually going to be in the Bahamas. It's the Nassau Championship.
No kidding.
Need to be out in the sun, right? And then on the 27th, we are going to play Elon at 12 p.m. again on ESPN Plus. My personal predictions is that we just have to consistently be pushing the ball. We have to be really persistent on offense. Defense needs to get a little bit more in control to try to cut down on that scoring. But that's just me personally. Brandon, what do you think?
No, the same thing. Like, honestly, I wouldn't change a single thing about how they played from the Troy game because they were on their game. The only thing I would say is be more aggressive and be more on your game with your shots. Like, you have to be on your A game. You're about to play in a 3-game guaranteed tournament in the Bahamas. So you have got to be on your A game.
And again, the fact that we have 5th and 6th year seniors on our team just do nothing but help us because it's a team that knows each other, they know how to play with each other, and they know how to play the game, especially Gamecock basketball game. So,
and also, can we show EKU how it's done to get a win against the Colonial in basketball, please?
Please God.
EKU lost to James Madison at the last second.
I know.
And we play Elon at Elon. Let's show EKU how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah. But y'all, this was fun. This is one of our I think this was one of my most enjoyable episodes, I think personally. But we want to thank you for listening. And then, of course, if you haven't already, you need to follow us on our social media pages at Cocky Nation. If you're following us on Facebook, it's Cocky Nation and JSU Podcast. Go follow all of our other FCS Fan Nation pages because we're all one big happy community until the two of us end up leaving and going to the FBS in a couple years. Grant, thank you for coming on. I wish we had more. You're more than welcome to come anytime. Like I'm cool with
Thanks,
that.
guys. No, thank you guys for having me on. And Brandon, thank you for reaching out to me. Also, I'm pretty sure that you're going to get a thank you from my girlfriend because I've been doing nothing but talking about realignment and FCS and Sam Houston and playoffs. And we live in a very tiny town in northern Arizona, and we moved away from our family, so we are each other's best friends. So she thanks you. I thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
It's been great.
Definitely have to buy you a beer when we're in Frisco.
All right, cool.
Sure.
I'll return the favor.
Well, guys, we thank you again. Be on the lookout for more content from us, especially as we post every week. And of course, we're going to say it. Grant, if you want to join in on us, go Gamecocks and fear the beak.